Here's a question most people can't answer. How much can you actually spend per month once you retire without running out of money at 85? If you froze for a second there, you're not alone. Most people can tell you their mortgage payment down to the dollar, but ask them their real safe retirement spending number and they're guessing. And that gap between guessing and knowing is exactly where the retirement spending trap lives. Here's how it usually works. You retire with a decent nest egg, maybe $500,000, maybe $800,000, maybe more. The first year you're careful, but by year 2 or 3, life happens. A kitchen remodel, a grandkid's wedding, a we've earned this trip to Europe. Nothing crazy, just normal life. And slowly, without ever feeling reckless, you start pulling more out of your savings than they can actually support. The scary part? You won't feel it happening. Markets can be up, your account balance can even look fine for a while. That's what makes this trap so dangerous. It's silent until it isn't. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how the spending trap forms, the specific mistakes that trigger it, and, most importantly, the simple checks you can do this week to make sure it's not happening to you. Quick note before we dive in. Everyone's financial picture is different, so treat the numbers here as general examples to help you think it through, not personalized advice. Let's get into it.
Mistake number 1. Using your pre-retirement spending as your baseline. Here's the problem. Most people plan their retirement budget based on what they spend right now while they're still working. That feels logical, but it's often wrong in a way that quietly sets the trap. Why? Because your spending doesn't stay flat in retirement. It moves in a curve. Many retirees actually spend more in the first 5 to 10 years than they expected because that's when they're healthiest and most active. Travel, hobbies, helping kids financially. Then spending often dips in the middle years. Then later, healthcare costs climb back up. Imagine a couple, Linda and Tom, both 62. They retire with $700,000 saved and figure, we've been living on about $6,000 a month, so we'll just keep doing that. Sounds reasonable. But that $6,000 a month number didn't build in the 2 international trips they now have time for, or the new car they've been putting off for years. By month 18, they're actually spending closer to $7,800 a month, nearly 30% more than planned, and neither of them has done the math on what that means 5 years down the line. Action step. This week, pull your actual bank and credit card statements from the last 3 months, not your mental estimate, and add up what you really spent. Most people are surprised by the gap between what they think they spend and what they actually spend. Mistake number 2, ignoring the sequence of returns risk. This one sounds technical, but the idea is simple. It's not just how much your investments earn on average, it's when the ups and downs happen. If the market drops significantly in your first few years of retirement, while you're also pulling money out to live on, that combination can do lasting damage to your savings, even if the market fully recovers later. You're selling investments at a low point just to cover expenses, which leaves less money to grow back when things bounce up again. Think of it like this. Imagine 2 people who retire with the exact same amount of money and the exact same average investment return over 20 years. The only difference is when the bad years happen. The person who hits a rough market in year 1 or 2 of retirement can run out of money years earlier than the person who hits that same rough patch in year 15, even though on paper their average return looks identical. If this surprised you, drop a comment with your current age. I want to see how many of us are approaching this stage of planning right now. Action step. Ask your financial advisor or check your retirement account provider's tools for what's often called a withdrawal rate or safe spending rate analysis, not just a total balance projection. That distinction matters far more than most people realize. Mistake number 3, treating your nest egg like one big number instead of separate buckets. When you see a total balance, say $650,000, it's easy to think of it as one pool you dip into whenever needed. But that mindset makes it easy to overspend because you're not distinguishing between money you need soon and money that has years to grow. A more structured approach that many financial planners recommend is splitting savings into time-based buckets. A shorter-term bucket for the next couple of years of expenses, kept safe and stable, a medium-term bucket for the next several years, invested a bit more moderately, and a longer-term bucket, invested for growth, that you won't touch for a decade or more. Here's the real-life version of why this matters. Picture Ray, 58, recently retired with $600,000. He didn't separate his money into any buckets. It was all just the account. When the market dropped 15% in his second year of retirement, he panicked and sold a chunk of his investments to protect what was left, locking in that loss permanently, right when he also needed to withdraw money to live on. If Ray had kept 2 or 3 years of living expenses in a separate stable bucket, he never would have needed to touch his growth investments during that dip at all. The drop would have simply been a number on a screen, not a crisis. Action step. Take 5 minutes and roughly sort your accounts into next 2 years, next 3 to 7 years, and long-term categories. You don't need a financial degree to do this. Just a rough sketch is enough to change how you make decisions during a market downturn. Mistake number 4. Underestimating healthcare and long-term care costs. This is the one that catches people off guard even when they think they've planned carefully. A 65-year-old couple retiring today can reasonably expect to spend well over $300,000 combined on healthcare costs throughout retirement, and that figure typically doesn't even include long-term care, like assisted living or in-home care, which can run into the tens of thousands of dollars per year if it's ever needed. The trap here isn't ignorance. Most people know healthcare is expensive. The trap is that they budget for today's premiums and copays, but don't build in the assumption that costs will rise or that care needs might increase later in life. Pause for a second and actually check. Do you know what your Medicare premiums, supplemental coverage, and typical out-of-pocket costs look like right now? If not, that's worth a call to your provider this week. Oh wait. Action step. Check whether you have any long-term care coverage or a specific savings line earmarked for care costs. If you don't, at least know that gap exists so it doesn't blindside you or your family later.
Mistake number 5. Not adjusting spending when the market signals you should. Here's the last piece of the trap, and it's a mindset one. A rigid, "I'll withdraw the same amount every single year no matter what" approach sounds disciplined, but it can actually be one of the riskiest habits in a down market. Many financial planners suggest a more flexible approach, spending a bit less in years when your investments are down, and giving yourself more room in years when they've performed well. It's a small mental shift, but it's often the difference between a retirement fund that lasts 30 years and one that runs dry in 20. Think about it like adjusting your thermostat instead of leaving it fixed no matter the season. A few smaller adjustments along the way beat one painful forced correction later. Action step: once a year, maybe every January, take 20 minutes to review how your accounts performed and whether your spending for the year ahead should flex up or down slightly. Put it on your calendar now while you're thinking about it. So here's where that leaves us. The retirement spending trap isn't about one big mistake. It's about small, reasonable-sounding decisions that quietly add up. Using the wrong baseline, ignoring timing risk, treating your savings as one big pool, underestimating healthcare, and sticking rigidly to a number that should actually flex. The good news is that every single one of these is fixable once you can see it clearly. And now you can. If you want to know exactly how to calculate your own personal safe spending number step by step, watch the video I've got linked next. It walks you through the exact math in about 10 minutes. And if this video helped you see your own retirement plan a little more clearly, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. There's a lot more we need to cover together.